Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of NHLN Opinion Plus, a weekly series airing every Friday. This is a space for our opinions where we talk about current events and questions of the Latino community is curious about. Today, we are joined by John Scippa, Director of New Hampshire Police Standards and Training. Welcome, John. Thank you very much for joining us this week on NHLN Opinion Plus. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking your time. So let's go right into it. I know you came in to be a director for police training in a very difficult time in March 2020. With everything that is going around in the world in the last year and a half, people need to understand and see the big picture of what is involved with police standards and training and what that entails. So I want to start off with the first question is, tell us a brief overview of your day-to-day responsibility and what you do as a director.
Thank you. Our mission statement is to shape, strengthen, and sustain the professionalism and competency of New Hampshire law enforcement officers, and that's in service to the state of New Hampshire. And we do that really in two ways. We are responsible for delivering all recruit training for every police officer in the state of New Hampshire and all state level corrections officers and probation parole officers. So we're very much primarily responsible for that initial training. Mm-hmm. We're also a primary source for ongoing, or what we call in-service training. So we have the training side of the house as part of our responsibilities. And then on top of that, we also, just like in our title, we also oversee the regulatory function of all certified New Hampshire law enforcement officers, to include those state correctional officers and probation parole officers. So we have a training side of the house and we have a standard side of the house. The standard side of the house addresses concerns with regard to our regulatory function, making sure that officers are staying current with their ongoing training requirements. And we also, unfortunately, part of our job is to look into allegations of police misconduct and then holding those particular officers accountable, to include having hearings here at Police Standards and Training to determine if the officers are doing the right thing or whether they've done something wrong, and then there are sanctions that are imposed if that be the case.
Well, that leads me to my next question about a bit about training. Let's talk about the training. What is a typical academy training like in New Hampshire, and how different it is comparing it to other cities like New York and Massachusetts? And how often does the curriculum and training change? I mean, I know there's a lot of training from different sides, but give us a little overview of that.
Absolutely. So here in New Hampshire, to become a full-time police officer, and it doesn't matter who you work for in New Hampshire, if you're a state trooper, if you work for the sheriff's office, a big city like Manchester or Nashua, or one of the smaller towns here in New Hampshire, every police officer must attend the full-time academy here in Concord. Our program is a 16-week program that is residential and paramilitary. So that means that when the students start, when the first day the recruits arrive here at the academy for their training session, they pack their suitcase, they show up on Monday, we assign them dormitory rooms, they sleep here, they eat here, they stay here until Friday, and then Friday afternoon at the end of the training week, they're dismissed for the weekend. They'll come back on Monday and they'll just do it again. The training involves both classroom, as you would imagine. There's a lot of lectures. We also use scenario training. That's a very important piece of our overall, training delivery program. And then we also do skills development. So things like shooting a firearm, driving a police car, practicing putting handcuffs on people, things like that. So we do regular classroom, we do scenario training, and then we also do skills development.
And is it less rigorous or more rigorous than any other typical training like in New York? Or I'm just trying to see how you can compare the trainings.
Yeah, so I've been in New Hampshire law enforcement for about 35 years. I did actually. I was the director of the NECC Methuen Police Academy for about a year before I took this job, and so I have a really strong working knowledge of the academy system in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, they do not have residential academies, with very narrow exceptions. The Massachusetts State Police Academy is residential, and the Mass State Police Academy also has the opportunity to teach a residential municipal academy. They don't hold that very often. So the academies in Massachusetts are what they call commuter academies or day academies.
Mm.
I will tell you that in both places, both down in Massachusetts and here in New Hampshire, it is very strict. It is very paramilitary, and the recruits in both states are held to very, very high standards. The difference is that here in New Hampshire, you have to live here. That's the delivery model that we use presently. Where down in Massachusetts, it's more like going to work. In other words, you got to be on time. You got to be prepared, right? And if you're not on time, if you're not prepared, then you're held accountable for that. But at the end of the day, those recruits go back home to their families, much like they would just working a regular shift. So there's pros and cons to both delivery methods. And we are looking at our delivery method now to see if it's bringing the best value to the learning experience, or whether we can maybe consider alternative methods to deliver our academy here in New Hampshire.
Right. And how often does the training change or have an update?
So that's an excellent question, Marcella. And one of the things that is very, very important for really this type of vocational training is to make sure that we are hitting the points that we're supposed to be hitting. And so I was able to partner with the University of New Hampshire's graduate program in justice studies, and they just did a tremendous job in helping us complete a job task analysis. And what UNH did was they sent out surveys to police agencies and to new police recruits, or those new officers that had just graduated from the academy. And we really tried to capture what we're doing right and what we're doing not wrong, but where we could do a little bit better. Are there topics that we're not covering that we should be covering? And are we spending too much time covering topics that are probably not useful to the new police officer? So I'm very proud to say that the executive summary of that job task analysis demonstrated that we are in fact doing a very good job of delivering that kind of entry-level training that these new police officers will need. We do have to add a couple of things. We have to add more first aid, it looks like. And they also suggested that part of our delivery model needs to change a little bit, where we allow for more problem-solving, group problem-solving, more scenario training, things like that. So those are things that we're looking forward to bringing into the mix, and kind of relooking at the curriculum. But overall, we're doing a very good job according to the JTA.
There's always room for improvement, and it always gets better every time you see what's the full picture of the training. So let me ask you about how has the state and agency felt? How has your agency felt the impact of the defund the police movement, the COVID and the pandemic? How has it affected it? Has it affected it in any significant ways?
So yes, it has. The short answer is yes, it has. I started my first day here as the director. I actually had to shut the academy down because it was right when the state of New Hampshire was starting to respond to COVID. And so we had to very quickly here at the academy, we had to pivot with regard to how we were going to deliver the program using digital means.
Yeah.
So we couldn't just stop delivering the program. It would have had a tremendous negative impact across the state. So we had to continue delivering the academy. And so we used Zoom as a way to continue delivering the training, with the understanding that there was times we just had to bring those recruits back into the academy to do the hands-on stuff. You know, you can't teach somebody how to drive a car over Zoom when they're sitting in their living room, right? So we did have to bring them back. I am very proud of the staff. They did a great job of pivoting and being able to continue delivering that program in a COVID environment.
Yeah.
You know, on top of that, I was very proud and privileged to be put on a commission by the governor here in New Hampshire to address police accountability, transparency, and you know, we did a lot of work last summer with regard to identifying areas that we could maybe do better in, right? And based on the work that the LEACT commission did, we as a group provided a summary report to the governor that had about 47 recommendations. And of those 47 recommendations, about half of them fell on my agency, on our agency here at Police Standards and Training. And I'm proud to say that we have completed all of those recommendations with really one exception at this point, and that is to just really take a hard look at how we address police misconduct. And as we speak right now, I am now on a separate committee that is working directly in that area. And we are fast approaching our deadline of November 1st to come up with recommendations and possible legislation that will help us, you know, do even a better job than we do now with addressing, you know, police misconduct.
Yeah, well, yeah, that leads to my next question. Like in this age and era, it seems like society is more litigious than ever when it comes to the use of force or force issues concerning the police. What safeguards or steps have the agency taken, which you were mentioning, to ensure that the officers behave within the confines of laws regarding use of force issues? But I know you mentioned November, but anything else that, you know, you can think of to make sure that the officers are doing their job and they're within the confines of the law?
Yeah, you know, so I'm very proud to tell you that really 3 strong initiatives that we took on here at the Police Academy was to introduce new training that had not been really provided at the level that we're providing it now. You know, the first one is a cultural diversity and procedural justice class. We went from having about a 2-hour block of instruction to a 2-day block of instruction on you know, just understanding the dynamics and teaching new police officers how to act in a procedural way so that they're not letting any bias, you know, come into their decision-making process. 2 other classes that we've introduced is a de-escalation class, a very, very formal, nationwide recognized de-escalation class called ICAT, which stands for Integrated, make sure I get this right now, Integrated Communications and Tactics. That's what ICAT stands for.
Well, okay.
And then finally, we are one of only 2 states in the nation that delivers the ABLE program, which is Active Bystandership in Law Enforcement. Both New Hampshire and the state of Washington on the West Coast, we teach every recruit officer, we formally teach them how to intervene and stop another officer from making a bad decision. And really, to me, that is a very powerful block of instruction to teach these younger people coming into our profession to really just hold each other to a very high standard and empower them to prevent a problem from happening. Right?
Yeah. I'm John, I feel like I can talk to you forever about this topic, but unfortunately, our time is catching up, and I just want to wrap up. But all I have to say is thank you, for doing the work that you do, and trying to find ways where it can make this whole, law enforcement culture easier and better for the ones that are behind it, and the ones that are dealing with the true problems out there. Anyway, well, I just want to say thank you for talking to us today, John, and for being a guest today on NHLN Opinion Plus. So maybe I'll see you next time. Maybe I'll see you around. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk with you. It's been a pleasure.
I think this is probably another topic that we can continue for another day. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Join us for another episode in 2 weeks. For more information about our discussion today, check out our web story on nhllatinonews.com. Follow us on Twitter and at NHLatinoNews and Instagram at NH_Latino News. I'm your host, Maricela Baez with NHLN Opinion Plus. See you next time.